Hello, everybody, and welcome back to CG Rated Books and another episode of Word Oddities. This time we are covering 4 different word oddities from The London House by Katherine Reay. That's right, folks. We've got a multiple 4-word word oddities video to cover today. I want to thank you for joining me, and here are our words. And with that, let's go ahead and get started, right? There will be a link at the end of the video for the book review for The London House for you to review that later. This is a historical fiction and a very entertaining read. I enjoyed it. So let's get into it. With the words that we have Assuage. I had to look that up. I had to look a couple of these up. And then Acumen, Glowered and Redolent. And let's start off with the first one. Remember, the format for that is we will give you the sentence that the word was found in the order that they were found. We will then give you the definition and then give you a reference for how it was applied in the story for each one of those words. So sit back, enjoy, and here we go. So assuage was found in this sentence. I pulled away in fear, in sorrow, and in guilt for being the child still alive, and perhaps chased anything and everything I thought might assuage that agony. Our definition was used, words used is a verb, and it means to make an unpleasant feeling less intense, as in relieve, ease, or alleviate. Also, it means to satisfy an appetite or a desire, as in fulfill or gratify. Now, let's see, the reference for this one is Carolyn's decision to pull away from her father based on survivor's guilt after her sister died in a car accident. So there was a communication that was going on. They were interacting. The father, this is the Caroline, or Carol, is the main protagonist in this story. And she has been experiencing a coming to terms with the fact that her parents had lied to her about her great aunt. And so her father and her have some difficulties because her father wants to continue to uphold the lie that her great aunt had actually died when she was young, like a child or a teenager. And the truth comes that her aunt had lived to an older age and was possibly a spy in the Nazi Germany war. So terrible. And that was that one, right? So Caroline is actually talking to her father about something, and he's holding her accountable and stuff, but she has always been reluctant towards her father because of the passing of her sister, and while they were young together, and she had always felt that her father had blamed her for the death of her sister. And so anytime that she had an opportunity to have to deal with or confront her father, she usually did it in reluctance because of that. Right? So, pulled away in fear, in sorrow, and in guilt for being the child still alive, and perhaps chased anything and everything that I thought might assuage that agony. All right. On to the next one. Acumen. Acumen. Here is your sentence. The transactional law didn't require a lot of emotion. It required knowledge and acumen, attention to detail. Actually, acumen was actually used twice in the story. So the second time, the second sentence was, there's a new group forming that could use me and maybe my fashion acumen. The definition for that is a noun, and it means the ability to make good judgments and quick decisions, typically in a particular domain, as in business acumen or astuteness. And the reference for that was the first reference. Let's see here. Caroline is in the process of addressing her father about the things she's finding out about her great aunt, describing his disposition as mild-mannered and calculating as someone with long history in an occupation that requires it. So the very first time she makes a reference to, that's the first sentence was transactional law didn't require a lot of emotion. It required knowledge and acumen, attention to detail. 146, third paragraph, 146. You got the book. I make these references, so it's pretty cool to be able to still go through this. Third paragraph, right? Okay, yeah, there it is. There it is. So a little bit more detail as far as that reference is concerned. Actually, she had found out some information and found that to be true. That so originally she was told that her great aunt had died, but basically because of who they were British. The aunt had gone away and was actually working as a spy. But she was actually working with the Germans, spying for the opposition. And so the family was hurt by that knowledge, and they didn't want that information coming out because of all the, the issues with that war, being a genocide and so forth. And so they did not want to be held accountable for that information, to be a contributor to helping the Germans. And so they didn't know the whole situation. So instead of trying to find out and trying to, understand Caroline Waite was the individual, the great aunt. And instead of trying to figure out what was going on with her, they just buried it and claimed that. And the main protagonist, her nickname is Caro, short for Caroline, because she was originally named after the great aunt. Yeah. So instead of letting them know any truth about what was going on, or at least any truth of the situation, not even fully understanding the whole situation, they just lied about it and said, oh yeah, your great aunt had died when she was a kid. And so she's finding out about it. And so now she's at the point where she's found out that that's a lie. And she's finding out some information that, she was in cahoots perhaps, or about to marry a German, a Nazi officer. And her father had stayed away. So she had left to go back to, the name of the story, she had left to go back to Britain because they owned property called the London House. And they lived stateside. So her father was still stateside. And she had left and gone back to Britain and actually met up with her mother, who was still living at the house. And eventually her father finally gave up his opposition as far as cutting everybody off, and came to Britain to talk to them about what's going on. And so we're at a point now where the mother tells the daughter and the father to talk it out, convince them to both to sit down and talk it out. So as we walked to the street corner, better to find a passing cab that way, I studied my dad. I'd always considered him a mild man, salt and pepper hair, the most basic of spices, and used sparingly. With a disposition to match, his profession bolstered the image. Transactional law didn't require a lot of emotion. It required knowledge and acumen, attention to detail. But I was wrong. He wasn't mild-mannered. He was resigned, fearful, lost, and it became clear in that tortured no from moments earlier, such a short word to carry so much power. All right? That was the first reference. The second reference was there's a group, a new group, the sentence, there's a new group forming that could use me and maybe my fashion acumen. And that second reference was Caroline, the aunt, the great aunt, was reflecting to her sister Margot in a letter found by our main protagonist about how she believed she was taking a stand being in fashion design during the war. She was considering on transferring to a new area and a different group of people that could possibly use her knowledge and experience, her, i.e., fashion acumen. And so part of the story, Carol, the main protagonist, had gone back to Britain and found in the attic of the London house tons of letters and a couple of diaries where Caroline Waite, the great aunt, had been sending letters and receiving letters to her sister and writing diaries to an imaginary friend. Imaginary friend was named Beatrice. And so in those letters, she found this one statement where Caroline is literally saying she had left. And the original process to the story was that she had gone over back and forth from France to Germany, bouncing back and forth. She was involved in the fashion industry, working alongside a very prominent fashion designer. So even though I don't know if many folks know much about the occupation, the German Nazi occupation throughout Germany and France, they tried to, outside of the war front, the front lines, they were living elegant lives, right? The Nazis, dresses and balls and dinners and fancy plays and so forth, away from the front lines of the war. And because of that, there was a lot of fashion statements still going on. And so Caroline, the great aunt, was involved in the fashion era, and she had used that as a foothold to be a part of the espionage industry. And so she was trying to, because she was spying, she was trying to relate to her sister on the front, on the make-believe that she was actually just doing fashion. And so to justify the fact that she's in there in those very, very scary areas, so close to the actual war and the occupation of the Nazis, the Nazi occupation, that she was trying to justify the fact that we're in fashion, but this is to help the effort, whatever. And so she was very believing of that, or at least trying to convince others that she was believing in it. but she was actually going to be more involved and actually going more into the espionage area. And because of that, she was stating that she thinks that even though her primary focus has been fashion, that she can be able to help this new group, which is actually closer to the war front, with her knowledge and experience. So, awesome, right? Pretty cool. Moving on to the next word, glowered. Glowered. Oh, I didn't look up the pronunciation for that one. There was only one reference to this one, and that sentence was paragraph 227. Father glowered across the long table and held Carol in his sights. Okay, so now this is, I think it was the grandfather. I think. Hold on, let me think. I think I may have gotten that one mixed up. Yes. Okay. All right. So the diaries are between both Caroline and Margot. Margot is the sister. Margot is the one who was also writing in the diary and had a make-believe friend that she named Beatrice, right? And so Caroline, the great aunt, was a bit of a wayward. I've gone straight into it. I didn't even do the definition. Let me apologize. We're going to start over. So the sentence was, Father glowered across the long table and held Caroline in his sights. The definition is a verb and is to have an angry or sullen look on one's face, a scowl, as in glare or stare angrily. All right, so now the reference, let's get back to what I was saying. The reference, Margot was writing, this is Caroline, the great aunt's sister, was writing in her dialogue, her diary, to her best friend about a situation that they were having at home. So now Caroline, the great aunt, had left home like really early, back and forth, and she was going to Paris, to Germany, and so forth and so on and so forth. And her behavior was frowned upon by her parents, especially her father. So Margot is writing to Beatrice and telling Beatrice, her make-believe girlfriend, Mother asked one question at dinner last night, only one. Are we never to have peace in this house? Father glowered across the long table and held Carol in his sights. It was as if Mother and I vanished from the room. And basically, Caroline, the great aunt, had returned home for a short visit. She was supposed to stay for a couple of days, and she ended up leaving like the next day after she wanted to protest her decisions of living in France. Yeah. So that was the easy one, right? Yeah. So yes, Margot was basically just talking about the visit from Caroline, sitting at the dinner table, receiving a very stern reaction from her father and a disappointed scowl. And now our last and final word is redolent. Redolent, here's your sentence. Paris took my breath away. When people say such things, they usually refer to the city's beauty, the soft light, and air saturated with flowers, heat off of the cobblestone, and patisseries redolent with red chocolate. Redolent. The definition for that, this was, yeah, there's two definitions. The definition is strongly reminiscent or suggestive of, as in evocative or remindful. The sentence example was given as names redolent of history and tradition. It also means fragrant or sweet smelling, as in smelling of or reeking of. And the sentence example for that was a rich, inky, redolent wine. And this was in reference to Caroline, the main protagonist. This is the one that's actually the main character. Was visiting Paris with Matt. Now, Matt was the one who started all of these things. Matt was a college, was an ex-boyfriend from college, and his job basically is he finds out information for people. And he was hired to find out information for this one family. And while he was searching out information for this one family, he came across information about Carol's great aunt. And so he remembered what the original story was. And so he reached out and said, I don't think your great aunt was dead. Your great aunt was a spy. I found information about it. And it launched this whole investigative historical fiction story. And so therefore, Matt was convinced by Caroline that he didn't know the whole truth. And so Caroline had gone home, found out some information, recontacted Matt, and then her and Matt began to really dive in and search to find out the truth about Caroline's great aunt. And this research and investigation had led them back to Paris, and she was visiting Paris for the first time with Matt in search of more informational records held at some kind of office that was designed to collect information about the Nazi war effort, and records and letters that could possibly provide more context about all that they had found out about her great aunt's history. So there were some unpopular records. I wanted to say undocumented, but they were documents. They just weren't included in official documentation. And so they found this little records place, and they were going there. It's located in Paris, and they were going there together. And so when she got there, they landed and met up with each other. And while she was meeting up with him, she just admitted that Paris had taken her breath away, but not in the same sense of just straight beauty. Beauty, soft light, and air saturated with flowers. Hers was more of heat off of the cobblestone and patisseries redolent with rich chocolate. And that's it, right? That is our last word. I hope you enjoyed it. I love doing these things. Just a reminder, Assuage, Acumen, Glowered, and Redolent are our word oddities today. And each one kind of caught me off guard a little bit, and I did research them. Now, this isn't, each one was used properly. So I started doing this because I found that in the past, I have found words that were used incorrectly, didn't quite make sense. And quite a few of them I found, it just helped me to be able to understand what I was reading because they were just unfamiliar to my vocabulary, and it allowed me to extend my vocabulary. So now I'm doing it as one of our video sequences that we do here on CG Rated Books. And I hope that you have enjoyed today's session, and I look forward to doing our next one. Please return, and until then, I hope you guys enjoy, and always keep on reading.